The Great Hall of Ethon Prime was the largest structure ever built by living hands. It floated in the darkness between stars, a massive ring of glass and metal where the fate of civilizations was decided. Today, 847 species had gathered here. They filled the curved seats that rose like mountains on all sides. Their bodies were different. Some had scales. Some had feathers. Some had no solid form at all. But they all shared one thing today. They all wanted humanity gone. Ambassador Yevro Okonkwo stood alone on the human platform. It was a small circle of metal hanging in the center of the hall, surrounded by aliens on all sides. She was a tall woman with dark skin and gray hair pulled back tight. Her eyes were calm. Her hands did not shake. She had known this day was coming for a long time. The speaker of the Concord floated at the highest point of the hall. It was a creature called a Velanthi, a being of blue light and crystal bones. Its voice filled every corner of the room without effort. "The vote is now complete," the speaker announced. "On the matter of humanity's continued membership in the Galactic Concord, the results are as follows. 691 species vote in favor of expulsion. 156 vote against. Humanity is hereby banished from galactic society." A sound rose from the crowd. It was not quite cheering. It was relief. It was the sound of creatures who had been holding their breath for 200 years, finally letting it go. Yevra watched them celebrate. She saw the Velanthi delegates embracing each other, their crystal bodies ringing like bells. She saw the Korath waving their many arms in joy. She saw the Oravani nodding their ancient heads in satisfaction. They were happy. They were so very happy to be rid of humanity. She understood why they feared her kind. Humans had only discovered faster than light travel 2 centuries ago. In that short time, they had spread across 100 worlds. They had learned every language. They had solved problems that had confused alien scientists for thousands of years. They adapted too quickly. They bred too fast. They refused to stay in their place, and there was something else. Something the aliens whispered about when they thought humans could not hear. Humans were predators. Not like the Korath, who killed with poison and waited for death. Humans were persistence hunters. They chased their prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. They never stopped. They never gave up. They simply kept coming, hour after hour, day after day, until their target could run no more. The galaxy looked at humanity and saw a nightmare wearing a smile. The speaker raised one crystalline arm for silence. Humanity is given 14 standard months to withdraw from all colonies, trade routes, and diplomatic stations. Your faster-than-light beacon rights are revoked. Your species will be confined to your home system. This quarantine is permanent and absolute. Any human vessel found outside Sol System after this period will be destroyed without warning. Yevra listened to every word. Her face showed nothing. "Does the human ambassador wish to speak?" the speaker asked. There was amusement in its voice. It expected begging. It expected tears. It expected the humans to finally show fear. Yevra smiled. It was a small smile, barely visible. But something about it made the nearest delegates lean back in their seats. It was the smile of someone who knew something they did not. "I have only a few words," Yevra said. Her voice was soft, but the hall systems carried it to every ear and translator. "The human species accepts the judgment of the Concord. We will leave your worlds. We will leave your stations. We will leave your trade routes. We will return to our home and trouble you no more." The delegates relaxed. This was what they wanted. Complete surrender. However, Yevra continued, and the word hung in the air like a blade. "I want to make one thing clear. We are not leaving because you told us to. We are leaving because we choose to. There's a difference. You will understand it soon." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device. It was a simple communicator, the kind any trader might carry. She pressed a single button and spoke 4 words that the translation systems carried to every corner of the Great Hall. "Begin protocol, quiet son." No one knew what it meant. The delegates looked at each other in confusion. Some laughed nervously. Protocol, quiet son? It sounded like nothing. It sounded like human nonsense. Yevra put the communicator away. She looked around the hall one last time, meeting the eyes of every species that had voted against her kind. Then her gaze settled on the Volanti speaker, the one who had led the campaign to banish Earth. "You called us vermin," she said. "You called us a plague. You said we spread too fast, that we took too much, that we did not know our place." She paused. "You were right about one thing. We do not know our place. We never have. That is what makes us human." She turned and walked toward the exit. Her footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. "You have made a mistake today," she said without looking back. "Not a moral mistake. I do not expect you to care about morality. A practical mistake. You have spent 200 years watching us, fearing us, hating us, but you never once stopped to ask a simple question." She reached the door and paused with her hand on the frame. "You never asked what we were building. You never asked why we were helping you. You never asked what would happen if we stopped." The door opened. The light from the corridor beyond made her a dark shape against brightness. "Now you will find out." She stepped through, and the door closed behind her. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the celebration resumed, louder than before. The humans were gone. The threat was over. The galaxy was safe again. They told themselves this for 14 months. Then the lights began to go out. The humans left exactly as they promised. They did not fight. They did not argue. They simply packed their bags and went home. On the colony world of Vareth 7, the human farmers said goodbye to their alien neighbors. They shook hands and made small talk about the weather. They promised to remember the good times. Then they climbed into their ships and flew away. The aliens who remained watched them go with relief. Finally, they thought. Finally, the humans are gone. 3 days later, the atmospheric processors stopped working. Vareth 7 was a desert world. Nothing grew there naturally. The only reason it could feed 30 star systems was because human engineers had built machines to create rain. These machines were now flying back to Earth with their creators. The Volanti, governor of Vareth 7, sent an angry message to the departing humans. "You cannot take essential equipment," he demanded. "Leave the processors. They are vital to this world." The human captain who received this message was a tired man named Chun. He had lived on Vareth 7 for 40 years. He had built half those processors with his own hands. He read the governor's message twice, then sent his reply. "The processors are human property. They were built with human materials, human knowledge, and human labor. We offered to sell you the designs 10 years ago. You refused. You said you did not need human technology. I hope you were right." The processors continued their journey to Earth. On Vareth 7, the last rain fell and did not return. This scene repeated across the galaxy. On the Kilrathi trade nexus, human navigators deleted the hyperspace routes they had spent decades mapping. Without these routes, journeys that once took days now took months. Ships vanished into uncharted space, never to be seen again. On the Oravani homeworld, the great library went dark. This library contained the knowledge of 1,000 civilizations. It was the pride of the Concord, a monument to galactic achievement. But the quantum storage systems that held all this knowledge had been designed by human scientists. When the humans left, they took the encryption keys with them. "Give us the keys," the Oravani demanded. "Buy them," the humans replied. "Oh, wait, You banned all trade with our species. What a shame. The medical stations were the worst. Across the outer rim, billions of aliens depended on human medicine. The neural stitching technology that regrew damaged brains. The cancer drones that hunted tumors cell by cell. The life extension treatments that had doubled the lifespan of a dozen species. All of it was human. All of it was leaving. A Korath elder sent a desperate message to Earth. Please, she begged. My grandchildren are sick. They need human medicine. They will die without it. The human doctor who received this message felt his heart break. He wanted to help. Every instinct in his body screamed at him to turn his ship around and save those children. But he had his orders. He had seen what the Concord thought of his people. He knew that kindness would be seen as weakness. I am sorry, he wrote back. Truly sorry. But your government voted to banish us. Your representative called human medicine a form of control and demanded we stop providing it. We are only doing what your leaders asked. The Korath children died 3 weeks later. They were not the last dot as the months passed. The Galactic Concord began to understand something terrible. They had thought they were expelling a junior member. They thought humanity was a young species that had gotten too big for its place. They were wrong. Humanity had not just joined galactic civilization. They had become its foundation. In 200 years, humans had quietly made themselves essential. They did not do this through force or threats. They did it by being useful. They solved problems that other species ignored. They built things that other species needed. They worked harder, faster, and cheaper than anyone else. And they never asked for credit. They never demanded recognition. They just kept helping, year after year, until the galaxy could not function without them. Now they were leaving. And they were taking everything they had built. The Volanthi High Council called an emergency meeting. The speaker, who had led the banishment, stood before his peers, his crystal body flickering with stress. We must force them to leave their technology, he declared. Send a message. Tell them that removing essential equipment is an act of war. An older Volanthi shook her head. It is not essential equipment. It is their property. We have no legal claim to it. Then we will take it by force. With what? Our ships run on fuel cells designed by humans. Our weapons use targeting systems created by humans. Even this station uses human water recyclers. The elder's light dimmed with shame. We cannot fight them. We cannot even chase them. We need them too much. The speaker's light flared with rage. This is exactly what we feared. This is why we banished them. They have made us dependent. They have made us weak. No, the elder replied quietly. We made ourselves weak. They just helped us do it. Ambassador Yevra Okonkwo was 6 months into her journey home when she received a message from the Volanthi speaker. It was not a demand this time. It was almost polite. The Concord is willing to discuss modifications to the banishment terms. Perhaps humanity could retain certain trade relationships. Perhaps some technology could remain in galactic hands. We are prepared to negotiate. Yevra read the message in her small cabin. Through the window, she could see the distant stars that humanity was leaving behind. She thought about the worlds they had helped build. She thought about the children they had healed. She thought about all the good they had done and how quickly it had been forgotten. She wrote her reply carefully. The Concord voted to banish Earth. The vote was clear. The terms were clear. Humanity has no obligation to engage with non-human species. We are taking what is ours and going home. If you want something from us, you will have to come ask nicely. But I should warn you, we are not accepting visitors. She pressed send and turned off her communicator dock behind her. The galaxy was starting to burn. She did not look back. 6 months after the banishment, the galaxy had become very quiet. The great trade routes that once carried billions of ships now sat empty. The communication networks that connected 1,000 worlds had begun to fail. The stars themselves seemed dimmer, though this was just the fear talking. On the Rilith homeworld, Admiral Kess stood before his fleet and tried not to despair. 300 warships floated in orbit above him. They were beautiful machines, sleek and deadly, the pride of the Rilith combined. They were also completely useless. How long? He asked his chief engineer. The engineer, a small creature with too many eyes, consulted his tablet. The fuel cells will last another 2 months at current usage. After that, the ships become very expensive decorations. And the replacement parts? The factory that made them was on Human Colony 7. It is gone now. We have tried to build our own, but the specifications are too complex. Every attempt has failed. Admiral Kess closed his primary eyes. The Rilith had voted enthusiastically for banishment. They had called humans a military threat. They had demanded the strongest possible punishment. Now their entire fleet was dying, and there was nothing they could do. What about the other species? He asked. Surely someone has found a solution. The engineer made a sound that might have been a laugh. The Oravani are too busy trying to recover their library. The Korath are fighting a plague they can no longer treat. The Volanthi are pretending everything is fine while their economy collapses. No one has found a solution, Admiral. No one even knows where to begin. The Vorn cluster learned this truth the hard way. A sickness had appeared among their young, a simple infection that human medicine could have cured in hours. But human medicine was gone. The Vorn doctors tried their own treatments, their own technology, their own ancient wisdom. Nothing worked. The infection spread. First to the children, then to the adults. Whole cities went silent. Ships carrying refugees were turned away from every port, their crews too dangerous to allow aboard. The Vorn had been a proud species, builders and artists, creators of beauty. Now they were dying in their millions, and no one would help them. A Vorn elder managed to send one final message before his city fell. It was addressed to Earth. We did not vote for banishment. We abstained because we were afraid. We see now that fear was a luxury we could not afford. If any human hears this message, please know that we are sorry. Please know that we were wrong. The message traveled across the empty space between stars. It reached the edge of human territory, where automated buoys waited in the darkness. The buoys recorded the message, analyzed it, and sent back a standard reply. Earth is not accepting visitors. As per Concord Ruling 7851 Alpha, humanity has no obligation to engage with non-human species. Have a pleasant journey home. The Vorn elder died 3 days later. Her world died with her dot as conditions worsened. Desperate delegations began arriving at the Sol System's edge. They came in small ships, in large ships, in ships held together by hope and rust. They all carried the same request. Please help us. Please forgive us. Please come back. The automated buoys turned them all away. The message was always the same. Earth is not accepting visitors. Have a pleasant journey home. Some delegations tried to push past the buoys. They were met by warning shots that came from nowhere, fired by weapons they could not see. They turned back quickly after that dot, but the Volanthi were not so easily discouraged. High Speaker Vorn stood on the bridge of his flagship and stared at the distant star called Sol. Somewhere around that star, the humans were hiding. They had built their walls and closed their doors, and they thought they were safe. They were wrong. All ships, Vorn commanded, advance to attack formation. We will teach these vermin that the Concord is not to be ignored. Behind him, 47 Volanthi warships moved into position. They were the finest vessels in the galaxy, armed with weapons that could crack planets. The humans had nothing that could match them. The humans had no fleet, no army, no military tradition. They were builders and helpers, not fighters. This would be easy. The Volanthi fleet crossed the boundary into human space. Immediately, warning signals filled every bridge. Sensors detected something ahead, something large, something that had not been there a moment ago. Report. Vorn demanded. His sensor officer's light flickered with confusion. I am reading 10,000 contacts. High speaker. They appeared from nowhere. They are surrounding us. 10,000? That is impossible. Put it on screen. The main display activated and every Volanthi on the bridge went still. They were platforms. Massive structures of metal and light, each one bristling with weapons that no one had ever seen before. They floated in perfect formation, a wall of death stretching across the stars. There were no pilots, no crews, no living beings aboard. They were completely automated, completely silent, completely still. And there were 10,000 of them. A communication signal reached the Volanthi flagship. It was a human voice, calm and clear. This is Earth Defense Network to unidentified vessels. You have entered restricted space. Turn back now or be destroyed. This is your only warning. High Speaker Vorn felt something he had not felt in centuries. He felt afraid. But he was Volanthi. He was the leader of the greatest species in the galaxy. He did not retreat from vermin. All ships, he commanded, his voice steady despite his fear. Open fire. The Volanthi weapons blazed to life. Beams of energy lanced across space toward the silent platforms. They struck true, hitting their targets dead center. The platforms did not even scratch. Then they fired back. The battle lasted 9 seconds. In those 9 seconds, 47 Volanthi warships became 47 clouds of expanding debris. Every ship was destroyed. Every crew member died. Not a single human platform was damaged. Not a single platform had even moved. When the light faded and the silence returned, the platforms resumed their watch. They did not celebrate. They did not mourn. They simply waited for the next fool to try. News of the massacre spread across the galaxy within hours. The Volanthi High Council went into emergency session. The other species watched in horror. The calculations changed overnight. Humanity had been building in secret. While the galaxy laughed at them, while the Concord plotted their banishment, while everyone assumed they were harmless helpers, they had been preparing for exactly this moment. They had weapons no one had seen. They had defenses no one could break. They had been ready for war the entire time. They just never started one. The message from Earth's defense network was broadcast on all frequencies, in all languages, to every corner of the galaxy. We did not want this. We do not want war. But we will not be threatened. We will not be bullied. We will not be pushed. Come to us in peace, and you will find peace. Come to us with weapons, and you will find only death. The choice is yours. Choose wisely. The galaxy chose to stay away. For now. The destruction of the Volanthi fleet changed everything. For centuries, the Concord had believed it was the supreme power in the galaxy. The great species sat at the top, making rules and giving orders. The lesser species obeyed. This was the natural order. This was how things were supposed to be done. Now that order was breaking apart. Emergency sessions were called on every homeworld. Leaders who had voted for banishment now faced angry crowds demanding answers. How could this happen? How could the humans be so powerful? How could we have been so blind? On the Volanthi homeworld, High Speaker Vorn was removed from power. His replacement, an elderly female named Crystal Singer, immediately called for peace talks. Her message to Earth was humble in a way no Volanthi message had ever been. We made a terrible mistake. We see that now. Please, let us talk. Let us find a way forward together. Earth did not respond. Crystal Singer sent another message, then another. She sent gifts. She sent apologies. She sent promises of reform. Earth remained silent. The automated buoys continued their endless watch, turning away every ship that approached. Why will they not answer? Crystal Singer demanded of her advisors. We have apologized. We have admitted our wrong. What more do they want? Her oldest advisor, a Volanti scholar who had studied humans for decades, spoke carefully. High Speaker, I believe I understand. The humans are not ignoring us out of anger. They are ignoring us because they no longer care. That is absurd. Of course they care. Everyone cares about the Concorde. Do they? Think about what we did to them. We called them vermin. We voted to trap them in their home system forever. We tried to take their property by force. And when all of that failed, we sent warships to attack them. The scholar's light dimmed with shame. Why would they ever trust us again? Why would they even want to speak to us? Crystal Singer had no answer. Meanwhile, the collapse accelerated. Species that had depended on human technology began to fail. Power grids went dark. Water systems stopped working. Food production crashed. The great civilization of the Concorde, built over thousands of years, was falling apart in months. Some species tried to adapt. They gathered their best scientists and ordered them to copy human technology. Surely, they thought, it cannot be that difficult. Humans are young and primitive. We should be able to figure out their simple machines. They were wrong. Human technology was not simple. It was elegant. Every piece connected to every other piece in ways that alien minds could not follow. The fuel cells required specific materials from specific human factories. The medical devices needed updates from human servers. The navigation systems used human mathematics that no other species had ever developed. And buried in everything were dependencies. Kill switches, automatic shutdowns, planned obsolescence. The humans had not just built technology. They had built traps. A Kara scientist made this discovery and immediately called her government. It is everywhere, she reported, her voice shaking with fear. Every system, every device, every piece of human technology has a way to stop working. They built these things to fail. They knew this day would come. That is impossible, her supervisor said. No one plans that far ahead. Humans do. Humans plan for everything. They knew we would turn on them eventually. They were ready. The supervisor fell silent. Outside his window, the lights of his city flickered and dimmed. Another power plant had failed. Another piece of human infrastructure had stopped working. What do we do? He asked finally. We beg, the scientist replied. We get on our knees and we beg them to forgive us. It is the only option we have left. But the begging was not working. Message after message disappeared into the silence around Earth. Ships carrying diplomats were turned away. Gifts were ignored. The humans had closed their door and nothing could open it. Then, 8 months after the banishment, something changed. A single communication channel opened from Earth. It was not directed at the Concorde or the great powers. It was directed at the 156 species who had voted against banishment. Ambassador Yevra Okonkwo appeared on screens across the galaxy. She was older now, her gray hair fully white. But her eyes were still sharp, and her voice was still strong. I am speaking to those who stood with us, she began. To the Delphine Collective, to the Marsh people of Valora, to the Silicon Mines of Perseus, to every species who voted no when the rest of the galaxy voted yes. You remembered that we were friends. You remembered that we were partners. You remembered that we were people. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was heavy with emotion. We did not forget you. We will never forget you. Then her expression hardened. But I'm also speaking to those who voted against us. To the Volanthi and the Korath and the Uravani and all the rest. You called us vermin. You called us a plague. You said we spread too fast and took too much. You demanded that we be locked away forever, trapped in our home system like animals in a cage. She leaned forward, and her eyes seemed to burn through the screen. We came to you with open hands. We learned your languages. We ate your food. We lived in your cities. We married your children. We solved problems you had struggled with for centuries. We asked only to be treated as equals. And for 200 years, you looked at us with suspicion. You whispered about us in dark rooms. You made plans to destroy us. A voice dropped to something cold and final. So now you will learn what we have always known. We do not need to conquer you. We do not need to destroy you. We do not need to fire a single weapon or lose a single life. We just need to stop helping and let you destroy yourselves. She stood up from her chair and looked directly into the camera. You asked what protocol quiet sum meant. Now you know. It means we stop. We stop helping. We stop building. We stop fixing. We stop caring. You wanted a galaxy without humans? Congratulations. You have one. I hope it was worth it. The transmission ended. For a long moment, the galaxy was silent. Then the panic truly began. Crystal Singer called every leader she could reach. We must unite. We must find a way to survive without them. But the leaders were too busy saving themselves. The old alliances crumbled. The great species turned on each other, fighting over the scraps of a dying civilization. The Concord, which had ruled for millennia, collapsed in a matter of weeks. And on Earth, humanity watched. They did not celebrate. They did not gloat. They simply waited for the fire to burn itself out. There would be something new on the other side, something better. And this time, humanity would be the ones making the rules. 1 year after the vote to banish Earth, the galactic Concord was gone. Its great hall on Ethon Prime drifted empty and dark. Its laws meant nothing. Its leaders were dead or hiding. The organization that had ruled 1,000 worlds for 10,000 years had simply stopped existing. In its place was chaos. The Volanthi hegemony had collapsed into civil war. Crystal Singer was dead, killed by her own people who blamed her for the disaster. Rival factions fought over the remaining resources, destroying more than they saved. Their beautiful homeworld burned with the fires of a dozen conflicts. The Korath were dying. Without human medicine, their immune systems could not handle the plagues that swept through their populations. Entire generations were lost. Those who survived were hollow shells, broken by grief and loss. The Orvani had sealed themselves in their towers and refused to speak to anyone. Their great library was gone, their knowledge lost, their pride shattered. They waited for death with the dignity of a species that had nothing left to lose. 14 species faced extinction. Dozens more were on the edge. The galaxy had become a graveyard of civilizations. But in the darkness, a new light was beginning to grow. Earth had opened its doors, not to the old powers, but to the forgotten ones. The species who had been too small to vote. The species who had voted no. The species who had been crushed under the Concord's bureaucratic weight for centuries. The Delphine Collective arrived first. They were ocean creatures, beings of song and light who had been mocked by the Concord for their simple ways. Humanity welcomed them as brothers. The marsh people of Velora came next. They had been treated as primitives, their wet worlds considered worthless. Humanity built them ships and taught them to sail the stars. The silicon mines of Perseus, artificial intelligences that the Concord had tried to destroy, found sanctuary in human space. Humanity called them equals and meant it. One by one, the outcasts gathered. They came to Earth not as beggars, but as partners. Humanity shared everything with them, holding nothing back. Technology, medicine, knowledge, resources. Whatever they needed, humanity provided. Why do you help us? Asked Delphine Prime, the leader of the collective. You owe us nothing. Ambassador Yevra Okonkwo smiled. She was very old now, her body weak, but her mind still sharp. We help because that is who we are. We build. We teach. We heal. The Concord thought this made us weak. They were wrong. It makes us human. But you could rule us instead. You have the power. Yes, and that is exactly why we will not use it. Power over others is the path to destruction. We saw what the Concord became. We will not make their mistake. Delphine Prime studied the old human for a long moment. You are strange creatures, she said finally. Strange and wonderful. We try, Yevra replied. The Coalition of Free Worlds was formed on the anniversary of the banishment vote. Representatives from 47 species gathered on Earth, in a simple hall that could have fit inside the Concord's smallest meeting room. There were no massive platforms or towering seats. Everyone stood together on the same level. Equals among equals. Yevra Okonkwo stood at the center and spoke the words that would shape the future. We gather here today not as rulers and subjects, but as friends and partners. We have all suffered under the old ways. We have all been told we were not good enough, not strong enough, not worthy enough. Those days are over. She looked around at the assembled beings. Some had tentacles. Some had wings. Some were made of light. All of them were watching her with hope in their eyes. The Coalition of Free Worlds will be different. We will have rules, but they will be fair. We will have disputes, but we will solve them with words. We will have differences, but we will celebrate them instead of fearing them. She paused and took a deep breath. But let me be clear about humanity's position. We will never again ask permission to exist. We will never again bow to those who hate us. We will never again let ourselves be caged. Her voice grew harder. Any species that threatens Earth will be met with absolute, overwhelming, and permanent response. We did not build 10,000 defense platforms because we wanted war. We built them because we wanted peace. But peace must be protected, and we will protect it. Then her voice softened. Help will be freely given to those who ask. We will never refuse a friend in need. But we will also never again help those who demand it. Respect is earned, not taken. Those who approach us with open hands will find open hands in return. Those who approach us with weapons will find only death. She raised her head high. These are humanity's rules. They are not negotiable. The Coalition accepted these rules without argument. They were fair. They were clear. They were exactly what the galaxy needed. In the months that followed, the Coalition grew. Former Concord species began sending messages, desperate to join. Some were accepted. Those who had voted against banishment, those who had helped humans in secret, those who had shown kindness even when it was dangerous. They were welcomed. Others were refused. The Volanthi, who had led the banishment campaign. The Korath elders, who had celebrated humanity's exile. The Oravani scholars, who had written papers on why humans were inferior. They received a standard response. Your application has been rejected. The Coalition of Free Worlds remembers who stood with us and who stood against us. Perhaps your grandchildren will be worthy of membership. You are not. It was harsh. It was unforgiving. It was necessary. Ambassador Yevra Okonkwo died peacefully in her sleep, 2 years after the Coalition was founded. She was 117 years old. Her last words were to her granddaughter, who would become the next human ambassador. Never forget what they did to us, but never let that memory turn you bitter. Build something better. That is the human way. Her funeral was attended by representatives from every Coalition species. They mourned her not as a human, but as a friend. Her body was sent into Earth's sun, an honor reserved for humanity's greatest heroes. The galaxy continued to change. The old powers faded. The new alliance grew stronger. Humanity spread once again across the stars, but this time they went as liberators instead of guests. They freed slave species. They rebuilt broken worlds. They healed old wounds, and they never forgot the lesson they had learned. You cannot banish the sun. You can only learn to live without its light. The Concord had tried to trap humanity in darkness and discovered too late that humanity carried light within itself. Now that light was spreading across the galaxy, and nothing could stop it. In a small park on Earth, a statue stood in memory of the banishment. It showed a human woman walking through a doorway, leaving a crowd of aliens behind. At its base was a simple inscription. We left because we chose to. We returned because you asked. We stayed because we were needed. We are humanity. We do not give up. We do not stay down. We do not forget. And we always come back. Children from a dozen species played around the statue, laughing and chasing each other through the grass. They did not know what the statue meant. They did not know about the war or the banishment or the years of suffering. They only knew that the galaxy was a good place, that their parents were happy, and that somewhere among the stars, humanity was building something wonderful. That was enough. That was everything. The end.